So first of all, thanks Alexander for joining me today. Looking forward for this portfolio because I remember some of these works to have seen already. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, that's great to hear. Thanks, Kai. Like you said, I'm Alexander Agredo. I'm from Cali, Colombia. I'm specialized in 3D environments for video games. And I'm a recent graduate from Think Tank Training Center, which is a really cool school. And yeah, I am right now looking for my first gig in the games industry and looking to get better as an artist. And I really love environments.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. So
Thank you.
you're trying to get your foot in the game industry, right?
Yeah.
This is really interesting. I just wanna raise that topic real quick because from what you've done so far and achieved so far, you're basically a newcomer in the industry, graduating from Think Tank, which is great, and you already managed to get featured by 80 level and be picked up by generally some magazines or like you could say talent scouts in a broader sense.
Yeah.
So actually, you have like the best foundation to get a job, right?
I know, but it's been hard.
Yeah, it's being hard. Like we will get to this in a second, but sometimes, honestly speaking, one's portfolio and skill set can be really, really good, and you still suffer from how the industry is right now.
Yeah. Totally.
There's always a portion of luck involved, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, I never clicked on all, right? Yeah, no, I never clicked on all.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at your portfolio as a whole, because what's good in the first place, and what I tell a lot of students when they ask like the same question on how to get in the industry, is that you have very few artworks, but those are all of very good quality. It's good that you can put renowned names like 80 level inside your thumbnail, which is already great, because if I were to land on your portfolio and I'm seeing 3D environment artist, I always look at the most upper left one because it's the most updated artwork. Given that you didn't organize them as you pleased, but just because ArtStation is going to put them there naturally. And the last thing I can see as an environment which was featured by 80 level. So this is already gold standard. Probably couldn't get any better than this. Because if I were a recruiter and I step into a portfolio, the first thing I can see is, okay, there has been someone else with a good knowledge, a good background and experience who already acknowledged that what you do is good. So part of my work has been taken away. I don't need to reconsider. I know it's good. So this is a very good thing to have here. And right, so this is fair. To post another artwork as a breakdown and to link to the article, it's fair. I also did that. Lots of people do that. You're just generating some traction, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but the actual thing that we want to see is this one here. Yeah, so I don't know if we need to go any further into this, actually, unless you want to talk about it. But most of the people seeing this video have probably seen this before as well.
Thank you. Well, sometimes, I ask myself, like, if I did like a good breakdown post, because, breakdowns tend to be like, they have like a lot of variety in what do you want to show. And in this breakdown, I wanted to show like shaders and modularism, these kind of things. And I didn't like show things like the roughness or the maps, because I thought that there was like a lot of content, and I didn't want it like to overwhelm like the post. But that's like one question I have, like if when you see this breakdown, I don't know if should I add something like that, or what do you think about it?
It's a good question, actually, because I can totally understand that you didn't want to overcrowd the post, given that it's a breakdown for 80 level.
Yeah.
So you have to make some sacrifices because no one is going to read until the end otherwise.
Yeah.
However, given that this is for your portfolio right now, we have to think about this a little bit different. And the reason for that is simply that right now you're not, like with the breakdown, and no, with the article, you're targeting a broader audience who wants to like quickly get to know how did you do this and maybe read some interesting stuff. But having this into the portfolio means your audience is now a set of recruiters, people that need to actually value your work, not just in like the technical aspect, if you're able to do this, but how good did you do it? So giving that it's a full environment and that you're an environment artist, there are actually a few things missing in here still. I personally think it's not detailed enough. It's already like you're in the uppermost 1% probably of breakdowns that you can find on ArtStation. But we have to find a way why, even though you're providing so much good quality, it's still like a hassle right now to get a job. And I would say this piece should need more breakdown. I actually really, really want to know, as a material artist specifically, how did you approach the different modules in here? Because I can see them all being textured, but I don't know if they're what kind of tileable they're using, how the tileable has been made, if you relied on any trim sheets, or if you like vertex painted it, hand painted it. Like I have no idea. I can only second guess, right?
Yeah.
And there's room for this. Also regarding your image, like I want to see the textures. I want to see your atlas and why you build it that way. It's for me, in my position, it's very important if I had to decide for an environment position.
Okay, yeah, because I think, well, I separated the materials in another post, and the like the really, really good breakdown, I think I made it in the 80 level article. Like
I'm going to open it up then.
Talking a bit more about the atlas and more in depth. But that's the thing, that like it's a heavy breakdown. So I don't know if I should find a way like to put that in my ArtStation, or it's tricky.
Yeah, I see from your interview here that you're mentioning a lot of things I want to see from an environment artist to be able to do. Like these are thought processes you have to naturally do as an environment artist, and it's good to see that you already incorporate them in your workflow. We have some composition guides here. We have a blockout stage. Yeah, I see that this is actually way more detailed than what you put into ArtStation. I mean, to some degree. Because...
And I don't know.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, because I don't know if this happens. Like for example, this happened to you, and maybe this happened to a recruiter, that they just see like the breakdown post on ArtStation and they think like that's the breakdown, and maybe they don't read the article.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's something tricky I'm trying to figure out.
It's completely correct. And the thing is, you don't want to put recruiters on like a throne or like a higher position. It could very well be that someone is reviewing you for a job or considering you for a job that maybe has less experience or comes from a actually different background. Like even in environment art, there's like different needs and topics. The greater or the bigger the studio, usually lead artists as well, take the responsibility for deciding who to hire. And it can very well be that they didn't touch actually creating environments for a year or so because they're so busy in meetings and organizing stuff. So you have to give them like the easiest and self-explanatory content that you can possibly do. And reading through that article is very interesting, but they might just don't want to do it because they're either lazy or they don't have the time. So whatever you put in your breakdown should be consisting of visual explaining what you did through the images. And like how you did already, there are some meta concepts that always work, like breaking down auto modular kits. Same goes for breaking down textures. Same goes for showing UVs or wireframe. Like this is all the stuff people want to see when scrolling down, quickly passing by. Like you can expect them to watch like this through your work. And then there's one thing that might be interesting, and they keep looking a little bit longer at this, and then they go again. This is how you need to expect someone reviewing this. So you want to be very transparent and very detailed and very easy to follow about what you did here. And some things you mentioned here, for example, like how you go over, where was it? Yeah, how you go over your reference already is great, but it would like break the boundaries of what you should show. More importantly would be like a blockout stage and like the different scales you put in there.
Okay.
This is something that might be very interesting. For example, but like even more specifically, because in that blockout scene, we could actually see your geometry without second guessing.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. Different shots is really cool. Like,
so
yeah, generally, if you have more shots to show more shots.
Okay. So yeah, I think I have to find like a way to do what you're telling me, like to find a way to be like detailed but also like easy to follow, like you said.
Yes.
So maybe like a hybrid between the article and the breakdown I posted.
I would say so. Like reconsider everything you said here, like what you actually put into text, and if there's something you can translate into an image or a GIF, do that. Because in the end, most of the stuff you're talking about here is highly valuable, and it also shows that you are aware of all these concepts. Most applicants might have to go through in an art test to like check, are they actually aware of this stuff? So
yeah, that's true.
Like to speak a little bit out of like my personal experience, I've worked with several people in several positions of whom I naturally expected them to understand, know, and be able to work with certain concepts, which they weren't. And it always raised the question to me, how did they get in that position? Because it's stuff you should know, that like some student that just graduated gets put through so much art tests, so much stress, and so much knowledge asking that I just can't scratch my head. How did someone not knowing this can get so far? And you want to get this out of the way as soon as possible. You know?
Yeah, it's something that is like fundamental, you know, and you're like, doesn't he knows this?
Exactly. And this can go down to very, very basic stuff. So one example would be the vertex paint that you have here. I think we have seen vertex paint and specifically this technique like 100 times already, but it's still important to have that in your portfolio, because I cannot expect, just because I've seen it a lot, that everyone knows about it and knows how to use it. So this is a very important thing to have included.
And from what you've seen so far, like what's the main thing, like, or is there a technical thing you think I'm missing, like really important, like a technique or
Missing in
technical
terms
skill.
of what you should show or what you didn't do?
Yeah, both.
Yeah, one thing you could think of implementing would be like you showcased the water shader already. Or basically you made use a lot of custom shaders. You built them specifically to propagate your scene. One interesting point could be the performance aspect of them, like how many instructions, how many nodes you used, how you set this up. It doesn't need to be perfect as well, also because you're an environment artist, you might not even get so far that you would ever touch this in a real production. But the environment position is something not unique, but special when working in the industry, because you somehow need to interact with a lot of other departments, and you need to you need to know a lot of aspects and concepts across different departments, also regarding level design, regarding performance, because whatever you plan to build, block out and do has to later work with the technical aspects. The more proficient you are in this, the less questioning and reiteration is going to happen later, because you can understand what your tech artists want from you, and you can work within limitations and budgets before someone from tech department comes to you and is like, we cannot place 20 decals in that scene here. It's way too much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think you're doing this already very well. Like, don't get me wrong. This is an exceptionally good piece. I'm nitpicking here because I have to say something about it, but it's really good.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And also, like with I know like I've been following you like a time ago, and I know like you're really good with, I mean, you're really good in general, but you're really good in materials. And I would love if I can get like some feedback on how I showcase them and maybe what can I improve.
Yes. Let me quickly get through these. I didn't spend too much time. Like, I mean, I'm just looking at the textures now isolated. I think, well, okay, first of all, we should go back a bit. Where is it? Down here. First of all, what I think from your material work is that you have a very good artistic eye for balancing colors and luminosities. Because there is no point where I would look at and ask myself, does this feel out of place? They all feel very connected. Like, there are a few things that you could probably tweak to get even more out of it, but being it a stylized setting overall, you can break the rules as you want. But you manage to include a lot of versatility and a lot of different colors without disturbing the overall view. Like, it's not that something feels disconnected from each other, you know?
Yeah, that was a struggle I had, and it's good to know that, because having everything like to blend together wasn't easy.
It is a really hard task. It definitely is.
It's underrated.
It is underrated, yeah, and it's a thing that most people also do very wrong when authoring textures and materials. Is that they usually observe them isolated, because if you're doing a material for your portfolio, you generally, as a material artist, might as well open up Designer, have some idea in mind, and you really shape that material, that specific texture, to be viewed isolated. And the misconception is that just because you did 3 very good materials, that they naturally do work together good. They don't. They most likely don't. And given that,
I had to find that the hard way.
Sorry, what did you say? You did find out the hard way?
Yeah, I found out the hard way with previous projects.
Yeah, but it's good that you had that learning, definitely, because sooner or later you're going to hit that gap. And I gotta tell you so much, even though I'm like working with materials for a decade now, I still have passes where other colleagues in other departments get back to me with feedback where I was like not paying attention to that as much as I could have. So it takes a really long time to get really, really good and confident at this. Given that, there's one specific thing that I could point out here regarding your textures. And it's the normal intensity of that painted plaster. Where exactly was that video? Now I have to step back here.
Which
was
one?
Here? Oh yeah, it's this one. Here. The amount of shadows in here, like the amount of strong pickup of the normal, is, from my perspective, too high compared to how soft and well connected the rest of the scene is. It's the only thing that I can really point out here. This might come down to the lighting, because it's very contrast heavy. We could see from the shadows. So this just happens with steep angles. It's nothing you could avoid that well, because from a frontal view, like when the light is directly hitting the surface and you're perpendicular to that, you don't see any normal detail. So the pitfall is to increase that because you want to have some detail on that wall. But it's working good here. But as soon as the angle gets very steep, the detail is just too strong compared to the rest of the composition. It feels noisy.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so something maybe for next time I can do is like duplicate the shader and just play with the intensity. It could be.
It could be.
Like depending on the angle of the wall.
Or you just over or lower the intensity. Because I think working with the color itself and that very strong edge meshes you put on the corners, like basically what Overwatch does everywhere, that already helps to shape that building with interesting details. You don't have to rely on strong normals here. Also, given that they're so small, mainly tied to if a person would stand directly next to it, while your home scene and the main composition and final renders are actually from pretty far away. You know, so you could work with broader details, more macro, softer, to just generally make it more interesting. Or what Blizzard also does is just sometimes bend things. Like they just make a curve in something just to make it look more interesting, but they don't go over surface detail, you know?
Like, so, but what do you mean, like making a curve? Like a curve node?
No. Wait, I'm going to showcase here. Like you have very straight walls here, right?
Oh, okay.
And what a Blizzard would typically do is go in here and maybe like carve a bigger portion out of it. Like, you know, make this edge like very what is happening here? Why am I not
like with some chunks?
Yeah, like they're okay, dude. I don't know what's happening here. Let me just paint over this with black. Yeah, so they're like, just look at the silhouette. They chip away like a very big detail, which is like way bigger actually than what would be realistic, but we're on a stylized setting. And sometimes they go in here and instead of having this very straight line, they just like bend it towards here and go like this.
Okay.
You know, it's like minor stuff, because from a first person perspective, you're not going to notice much of that. But the more you draw the camera away from the actual scene, the more prominent this stuff gets and shapes some interest. And you don't need any surface detail here, because from that angle, all that noise that is in here is not going to be seen, or maybe even creates some of this moire effects. I don't know what it's called. But working with macro shapes naturally avoids that. And it's as effective.
Okay, yeah, like exaggerating a bit more, like that breakdown of the 90 degrees lines.
Yes. I think you're doing this a lot.
Okay.
Like most of your shapes are really soft. Your texturing is really soft. It's cool, but that's where that little bit is off-putting, because everything incorporates that very well. But then we have like very strong and harsh surface detail in here on the walls. This is the only off-putting thing I can find.
Okay. And yeah. With the materials.
Oh yeah. Again, I need to quickly scan them.
It's okay.
You used this one in the scene, really?
Yeah. That one is the wood that is like in the balcony and all of that.
Wait, I have to open this up next to it. I want to spot this. Here?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so first things first regarding presentation. If you're going for a sphere render, be sure to use a custom UV sphere. Don't rely on that polar coordinates, because you're seeing a lot of stretching and squashing. I think previewing this on like a classic sphere is nothing we would do today. Like as material started out, this was like the meta, but it's not anymore. I think sphere renders are kind of out of date. There are exceptions to it.
Yeah.
And if you UV them differently, you get like less stretching and a more interesting shape. Like I do this a lot in my materials. I can send you the file for this as well. But the classic sphere render, I would not do this anymore.
Oh, okay. That's a really good tip.
Actually, your materials are so cool and so soft that I would personally see them at best on the rounded cylinder from Substance Designer, like the preview shape, you know?
Yeah.
I think they would be best on this one.
And how do you get like to that? Like, because when I'm showcasing materials, I tend to like not know well how to present them. So I just went for the sphere for the other materials, because I didn't know like what to do, if I should, like, what's the best thing. So how do you know like the rounded cylinder is better because it's softer?
For one, because it's softer, because your shape resembles what we see in the scene. So it's just a continuation of what you did already with your modeling. And at the same time, your materials are somewhat a mix of organic and architecture. So having the cylinder allows to pan the camera closer. So if you go lower in the FUV, you actually bring everything closer together. So you have like a very big centerpiece. I actually can let me quickly open Designer. I forgot that I'm on a PC.
Yeah.
I can show you right away what I mean. I can see myself in the recording in the camera doing all gestures and stuff, but you don't see this.
Yeah, I'm just seeing like the screenshot.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I forgot.
Is that the NDA project super classified you can show? Oh no, never mind.
No.
You got scared.
Yeah, a little bit. I need to make sure that whatever I show here later in the video is cut. But so let me quickly show you with this cylinder here. Wait, that's a little bit red. So when I edit the camera now, we got a focal length of 35 millimeter. So 50 to 55 is more how the human eye would perceive it, right? And Like the lower you go, the more it's stretched to the back, right? But the higher you go, the more you bring that to the viewer. And when I go to 90 and zoom a bit out, you basically have like this area being close to being flat. Oops. So it's close to a plane view, but we still have that cylindrical shape, that round shape that allows for the light to pick up your surface details, you know? So in one render, we get a mix of both. While your current sphere is mostly showing only spherical shapes, we always have light interaction at any point of time, and it stretches the texture. Because I feel like your textures really just look completely different to how they look in the scene right now.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I didn't think about that, but yeah. The stretching is making them look weird.
It does, yeah. If I had to just value these materials, I would position them in lower quality and execution than they actually are, because your scene shows that they are very well put together. So yeah, breakdowns generally good, but you want feedback to the materials. So I already see that you're using your height values here are not well balanced. I can see that because of the grout sticking out too much of what that should be. The perspective is also quite hard to pick up. Like, am I looking with an orthographic camera onto this, or is it perspective and just in the right angle that it looks flat? It's hard to see.
Yeah. I think I might delete that render, because I also think like maybe the sharpness of the normals are like really high.
It is a little bit too much. Yeah, it looks more like at this point your render is more reflecting something you would go towards a more realistic approach rather than it actually being in a stylized setting. This also comes down due to the use of the displacement and having the AO pick up here. So the reason why I think your height map is authored wrongfully here is mainly because, for once, I said the displacement, but also how strong the shadows are inside the dips here. It looks like the AO is picking up a lot of contrast that it shouldn't be.
Intense.
Yeah. Also regarding your lighting intensity and how flat it all looks, it shouldn't be dark. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, we get like in this specific material, we get like a lot of repetition towards the cracks. You try to break this up, but you would generally want to avoid any repetition. Wait, how often is this tiled? Just to be sure that I'm not saying something stupid.
I don't remember. I think it's like 4 or 2.
Yeah. So yeah, you should, when working with cracks, be sure to really be completely versatile. No repetition at all. It directly breaks immersion. The surface noise is a little bit too much, just for what you were aiming to do with that. But other than that, I think your what happened? Oh, by the way, can I see this on some render here from above? Here, right? No.
Like the main project?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the other post. Is I think it's back.
In the other post?
Yeah, the one that has the Unreal. Yeah, that one.
Oh, there's another
That's
one.
like the beauty. That's like, I made like the beauty post and then like a breakdown post.
I see. I mean, in terms of getting more traction, this is very fair to do. Obviously, the numbers speak for themselves. Like, you got a lot of recognition, which is great. But you will again have to think about a recruiter joining your portfolio. Like it's a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
See, this one is something I would want and expect to see in the breakdown. Be sure that you're not distracting anyone joining your portfolio, because I get different information in 4 of 7 of your artworks, even though they all share the same scene.
Yeah.
You're essentially giving different information. And you want to nail this down as fast and as easy as possible into one single artwork specifically. It might, for materials, this can be a separate one. This is fair because material breakdown has its own place if you want to put focus on that. But these 3 all share different breakdowns at some point, and you need to unify this.
Yeah.
Maybe not for this one because it's a lot of work, I know, but for future projects, be sure to have it in one place.
Oh, okay. That's a really good tip. Yeah. Trying to like merge everything maybe in a single post.
Yes. And like it's a high level task because again, you don't want to overcrowd it, but be very specific about what you show without missing on anything.
Okay. And also a question I had is I just started a personal project like a week ago or something like that. There are many things I could show. Like what are the main things I could show or the main strengths I can showcase in this new project to have a more powerful portfolio as an environment artist?
So the thing with environment is what most people often misunderstand is that you also have to closely work together with departments like level design, system designer, and gameplay. Because ultimately your environment doesn't need to look good, it needs to work well and then look good. Like form follows function is like a sentence you can keep in your mind. So form follows function, yeah, because this environment like reminds me a lot of like the Overwatch scene or general the Overwatch style, which is really cool. So it showcases your artistic skills, but it wouldn't work as a playable level for Overwatch. And everyone on Blizzard would agree on this because several key factors wouldn't work for actual gameplay. And what you should focus on is craft a project that incorporates this thinking and this theory of imagine there would be a game like action RPG, there would be a game like a shooter, like whatever goes down your alley. And I built this environment specifically for that. Here's a position, here's something to cover, here's like a vertical layout and stuff like this. Like there's a lot of factors you have to be able to do. Oh, hello? Hello? Are you there? Alexander?
Yeah, I agree. That's really good. So I'll try to think more like on the level design part and maybe picking a project that I can showcase that more, like how that will translate into a game, not only the artwork.
Yes, correctly. And then your task, of course, is it that once you find out it works or it could work, I mean, in the end, you're no gameplay designer, so no one expects of you to do that to perfection, but knowingly incorporating these thoughts into your environment process is definitely a skill that is needed in the industry.
That's really cool.
Yes, okay. And you will see the more you look at this in games from the perspective of the gameplay designer, the more you understand why there have been made some sacrifices. Like the biggest blocker, for example, for me always has been invisible walls, like actual level blockers. You want to explore something because it looks super interesting, like in Dark Souls, but you cannot go there. Like you just can't go there. And this can be very frustrating for a player, but it can also ultimately be a very important guideline for the player to where this player has to go. Why is it shaped like this? Because we don't want to frustrate whoever is playing Dark Souls to aimlessly wander around an area for hours not knowing where to go next, you know. So there's this there are sacrifices why you would do this and why something looks worse and in lower texel density with like pure intention.
Yeah, it's kind of guiding that player without telling them directly.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's all the things I have for now.
Nice.
Yeah, I think for a last question, I know this is like a bit of topic, but I know you have experience and you can just answer like real quick if you want.
Sure.
And is like if you have like any tips regarding like once you get like to an interview or any tips about the interview process.
Yes. Don't get intimidated by questions or tests they might throw at you. The interview process is mainly there, of course, to see if you're capable of doing something. But even more important, it is for the recruiters to see if you are able to learn new workflows, to adapt to certain workflows, and how good your motivation to self-learn and improve is. If you can somehow sell yourself rather than your skills in an interview, you are much more likely to be hired. Much more likely.
Oh, okay.
And this has also to do with a very financial point of view, because for a company, it's much more interesting to hire someone who is like a newcomer in the industry, because given your position and experience, they can pay you less, arguably. But the more experienced you are at the same time already, and the more they see the potential in you growing in that company, the more interesting you are. Because sometimes you need, for example, like a senior like lighting artist, but there are very few on the market who are searching for a job, and the ones that are searching for it like have horrendous paychecks. So the salary is quite of questionable if you want to hire a senior, or more hire a junior who is capable of doing what a senior might do in a year or two. Right?
Yeah, that's true. So do you think it's good like to mention maybe in the process that like being conscious about that, like okay, I'm a junior, but I'm also like I know I have a good skill and I have like passion for growing.
Yes,
it's good to mention that.
If you find a certain you could say time slot in that interview, like you have to have a feel for that. Like don't right away say I know I am not fitting that role, but I can do it. Like wait for that moment where it's adequate to like promote yourself, because you have to do this. You ultimately want to sell yourself.
Yeah, because sometimes I feel scared of like mentioning that I'm a junior, because I think someone might see that as a inconvenience, you know. But it's finding a way like to put it like a strength.
Honestly, I wouldn't even put too much focus in what you are. You're not telling about this in your portfolio. And your work clearly shows that your skill set is beyond something a typical junior could achieve. You're very well already in the intermediate position. Let the recruiter decide on that. Like, don't try to don't try to frame yourself already in some position. Let someone else decide on that, and then you can go on like yeah, but I can learn, I can adapt. I did this within 2 weeks. I did this within a month. Think about what happens in half a year. Go like this over that.
Wow, this is gold. This is literally gold.
I wish you a
Yeah.
lot of luck hitting your job, dude. It's a hard time, definitely.
Yeah, but that thank you so much. I mean, like this information for me has been like so valuable. I think maybe you can't imagine how valuable it is for me. And I really
can only hope.
appreciate no, I really appreciate for you taking this time and helping others. I think that's something I really want to do like in the future, and this motivates me. So thank you so much.
Of course, dude. Happy to help.